Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, back with the first news peruse in quite some time. The Summer Game Reveal Showcase season kicked off today with Summer Game Fest 2025, and it was a pretty good show for the most part, with plenty of new reveals, updates on already announced games, and even some surprise drops/releases. I wanted to take this time to go over the titles that personally resonated with me, so that's what we're going to do today. Without further delay, here are the reveals and announcements I wanted to highlight from Summer Game Fest 2025. Since I took notes down on the reveals I wanted to cover as they were, revealed, I suppose we'll stick to that order for the sake of discussion here, which means the first highlight of the show to discuss is none other than Code Vein 2. A great surprise from Bandai Namco here, and one that's greatly appreciated. Commonly known as Anime Dark Souls, the original Code Vein indeed offered up its own anime-inspired look and aesthetics the Souls-like gameplay we're all so familiar with at this point, and I'm excited to see what they do for the sequel here. There wasn't a whole lot of gameplay shown for this reveal, sadly, instead focusing more on cinematic flair. From those cinematics, though, I picked up that there's seemingly going to be a focus on time travel and/or manipulation for the story side of things, and with the little gameplay we did see, it does seem to retain some of the staples from the original game. Namely, the dystopian/apocalyptic urban environments mixed with some gothic-inspired flair, as well as the visceral transformation attacks that your character can perform on enemies, which was what tipped me off to this being Code Vein 2, even before the title reveal at the end. It's been quite some time since I played the original, but I remember enjoying it greatly during my time with it, and I'll certainly be checking out the sequel once it arrives sometime next year. Following Code Vein 2, the next few talking points regard games that were already known quantities. What I mean is, these weren't wholly new world reveals, and instead are just some new trailers and updates on games we already knew about, so I probably won't have as much to say on them as some of the other topics here, especially considering most of these new trailers were pretty short. Mouse, PI for Hire, got a new trailer, showing off a bit more gameplay, and confirming that the legendary Troy Baker will be starring in the game. I've been sold on this one ever since I first saw it, and I'm eager to step into the 2D 1920s animation-inspired shoes of Mouse, and blast through some baddies once the game launches later this year. Marvel, Cosmic Invasion also received a new trailer, focusing on two new playable characters that will be featured in the game, those being Rocket Raccoon and She-Hulk. This one comes courtesy of the developers over at Tribute, who are also responsible for the totally tubular TMNT Shredder's Revenge. That game is probably one of the finest beat-em-ups you can play today, and Cosmic Invasion is continuing to look like a perfect continuation of what that game had on offer. Beautifully expressive and colorful pixel art, an expansive roster of playable heroes, and energetic music to tap your feet to whilst you beat up any and all baddies who stand in your way. Onimusha, Way of the Sword, rounds out our known quantities discussion here, as it also got a new trailer for Summer Game Fest. I still don't really know much of anything about this series, but I'm glad Capcom is bringing it back for their longtime fans, and this new game continues to look interesting. It seems to offer up a bit more of a slower, more methodical approach to the norm for action RPG gameplay, and I'm still looking to giving this one a go once it's out next year. Moving back into brand new reveal territory, we've got two wonderful co-op experiences to discuss next, those being Out of Words and LEGO Voyagers. Starting with Out of Words, this game offers up some potent, eye-catching visuals, with a combination of puppetry and stop-motion animation making up its world and characters. It seems the devs really wanted to sell the idea that this is a handcrafted experience, and I hope that the co-op focused puzzles and exploration can match the quality and care we're seeing put into the visuals. Not a whole lot was shown for this one, and it's not due out until next year, but I'm interested in checking it out once it arrives. LEGO Voyagers was the other co-op focused adventure revealed, and it similarly is really doing a great job of offering up a feast for the eyes, really nailing the look of LEGO bricks and pieces within a digital world. This one is also focused in on co-op play, asking two players to assume the role of two small LEGO bricks, tackling platforming challenges and puzzles by working together, and perhaps even sticking together, quite literally, as joining up and building contraptions with yourselves and other LEGO pieces seem to be key to the journey here, and it both looks and sounds like a wonderfully inventive and fun time. LEGO offers up boundless creativity with what you can do and make with them in the real world, and I'm very intrigued to see just how crazy you can go with it here in this game. At this point, it's no surprise that I'm a huge fan of co-op focused games, as I've mentioned it here on the channel a few times already, so it makes me incredibly happy to see other developers seemingly inspired by the wide appeal and success of co-op juggernauts like It Takes Two and Split Fiction, and come up with their own unique ideas and journeys for players to experience together with a friend. Next up, we got a new trailer for the DLC expansion for Lies of P, known as Overture. I hadn't really seen or heard too much about this one ever since the initial reveal trailer, but honestly, I didn't really need to see more after that. Lies of P is no doubt one of the best Souls-likes ever made. In fact, I'd say that if you didn't know any better, you could easily mistake it for a game made by From Software themselves. It really is that good. Every aspect of Lies of P feels incredibly deliberate and polished, and it was a highlight of 2023 back when it released for myself and many others, and still remains one of the best Souls-likes, and action games in general, you can play today. And speaking of today, that also happens to be when this DLC is releasing, as at the end of this new trailer, it was announced to be available. A very cool shadow drop, and I'll for sure be giving it a go at some point in the near future, though I'm pretty tied up in video making, Switch 2 shenanigans, and other games I still need to get through in general. A little after that, we got to see a deeper look at Mina the Hollower, the newest title from Yacht Club Games, developers behind Shovel Knight. Okay, so technically this one could have fallen under the earlier discussion category of known quantities, as could the DLC for Lies of P. Personally though, I actually did not know anything at all about Mina here, and I thought this trailer was the first we've really seen of it, but this game was initially announced back in 2022. Actually, now that I look back at the reveal, maybe I did know of this one, but forgot about it over these past few years? Unsure, really. Anyways, this new trailer showed off more of the game, which looks to be a great combination of ideas and gameplay from the original top-down 2D Zelda games, as well as the older, pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevania games. Of course, being made by Yacht Club Games, I fully expect them to deliver an excellent adventure here, and their masterful pixel art and music that we first saw and heard in Shovel Knight remains here for this game. This new trailer also confirmed the release date, which will be on Halloween of this year, and there's even a demo out on Steam now, which I plan to try out very soon for myself. Bandai Namco returns, this time to publish a new game by developer Brownies Incorporated, which, can I say, that's an amazing name for your studio. Toa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree is the name of the game, and it's quite a long one, isn't it? I think my favorite part of this reveal was the 2D cinematic shown for the game, as they just look so nice, cute, and charming. But the game itself looks great too, combining stylized 3D visuals with 2D character portraits, somewhat similar to the designs we saw for the numerous characters in those cinematics. Gameplay-wise, well, if you've been anywhere near an action roguelike within the past few years, I think you'll know what to expect from this one. Top-down, fast-paced action, with randomized loot, power-ups, encounters, and more thrown in to shake up your numerous attempts through the game. I'd suppose Toa does stand out a bit compared to the norm, as there are multiple playable characters, and even a duo co-op mode you can play with a friend, which is very nice to see. Honestly, this game kinda gives me similar vibes to the recently released Yasha, Legends of the Demon Blade. I suppose they share somewhat similar aesthetics and inspirations, as well as a generally similar gameplay structure, and both of them have pretty long names, too. Anyways, I don't really know where I'm going with this, other than to say that I'm looking forward to Toa here, and thankfully, it won't be too much longer of a wait for it, as it's set to launch on September 18th of this year. This next reveal just might have been my favorite of the entire showcase, only possibly outdone by the closing one, but we'll get to that in a moment. For now though, it's time to discuss Scott Pilgrim EX, a wholly new Scott Pilgrim game and story, being written by creator Brian Lee O'Malley, and brought to us from developer Tribute, who we talked about earlier with Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Man, it feels good to have a brand new Scott Pilgrim game. This one is obviously heavily inspired by the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game, as it remains a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but with a revised style that adheres more to the original art in the graphic novels, and the recent animated series Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. In addition, the multiple playable characters, 4-player co-op, and even the original composers/band from the vs. the World game, Anamanaguchi, are set to return for EX, so you just know this game is going to have some amazingly catchy music throughout. I think I can safely say that the original Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is probably my favorite beat-em-up ever made, so to see a new game coming that looks to recapture the same magic and fun I had with that game, done by Tribute no less, who absolutely know what they're doing when it comes to beat-em-ups, well, I think I already have a contender for favorite game of 2026. I seriously cannot wait for this one to release. We're almost done with the highlights here, but before we get to the closing reveal, there's one more game I wanted to talk about before that, which is Stranger Than Heaven, the newest action game from Ryoga Gotoku, or RGG, the developers behind the Yakuza/Like a Dragon games. There's still not a ton we know about this game here, other than that it seems to retain that punchy, melee-focused combat of the older Like a Dragon games, and that it's seemingly set in an alternate mid-1900s world, with a strange but captivating mix of film noir and traditional Japanese environments and architecture, with a healthy dose of neon too. For good measure. I'd love to see more of what this game has to offer, and what it's ultimately going to be about and play like, but they've captivated me by its setting alone, and I'll for sure be keeping this one on my radar. Closing out the show, we got a decently lengthy in-engine cinematic reveal for the 9th mainline title in the Resident Evil series, known as Resident Evil Requiem, which will be launching on February 27th of next year, just in time for the series' 30th anniversary. Sadly, we've got no gameplay to go off here, but there were some interesting tidbits to enjoy from the trailer, the biggest one being our inevitable return to Raccoon City, the main setting from both Resident Evil 2 and 3, looking much worse off now than when we last saw it. Though I suppose when you get nuked and abandoned for 20 plus years, it makes sense. The streets aren't overrun with zombies now though, so that's one good thing that came out of it being nuked, I suppose. One other piece of information I've seen discussed around a lot already is in regards to the main character we follow in this trailer, Grace Ashcroft, which, that's a really cool-ass name. Her mother, Alyssa Ashcroft, was present in an older spin-off title in the series known as Resident Evil Outbreak. So it's cool to see that game come back up in the main series, and I'm sure fans of it are feeling pretty good about its acknowledgement after all these years since it released on the PS2. I would have loved to see at least a little bit of actual gameplay here, but it was mentioned that it'll be playable at Gamescom this August, so we won't have to wait too much longer until we get to see a better look at it. Either way, it's a new Resident Evil game, and Capcom-made game in general, so I already know it's going to be awesome, and with this, a new Onimusha, and new Okami game on the way, it looks as though the Capcom hot streak of delivering nothing but banger after banger will continue on for some time yet.
Special one, the chosen one, Miss Ashcroft.
And that about does it for all the highlighted games and reveals I wanted to discuss for Summer Game Fest 2025. I'd say there was a pretty decent mix of games to look forward to coming within the next half of the year, and plenty of great new games joining next year's lineup, all of which are very exciting. The big ones here were Scott Pilgrim and Requiem, and those alone already make 2026 a pretty killer year, at least for me. But I'm still quite excited for all the other titles I talked about coming later this year as well. I think that's a wrap on the Summer Game Fest talk for this year, but there will be even more gaming announcements and goodies to go over again very soon, as the Xbox Summer Showcase will be arriving on June 8th. I plan to cover it too. But with all that being said, I think that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for watching. Your continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. Hope I was able to entertain, inform, and perhaps get you excited or interested in some upcoming games you may not have known about. And last, but certainly not least, as always, I'll see you next time.